3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Indian Cine-MANIACS. Hey, Maniacs, what's going on?
Hi.
Hey.
How's everybody doing?
Hey there.
We're doing
Great job
great.
on that one, Ralph. Great job.
We had a week off
I do my
to
best.
celebrate America.
No, you do excellent.
We did celebrate
yourself
America
short.
last week. Is that what you... Sean, again, wait till we
did.
finish, then jump in. I mean, we're getting comments that we're interrupting you. I don't understand how that happens, but okay, so there it
They're
is.
ticked off about that.
All right, so this is another viewer list. Our film, our viewers set the order. So I think
I
this
understand
is
it less every time you explain it.
I know it's so confusing. Believe me,
This
I
was
just
our
like
movies voted on by the audience
order was
of the
voted
order
on
we're
by
going to
the
watch
audience.
them.
okay. I just like the
And then
wheel.
Instead of going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we threw everything on its head, and they were doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
Yeah,
by the
but
time you get to my choice, you'll be like, "Well, 16% of the people wanted this one, huh?"
The wheel is simple, and this
We're going to get a lot of likes on
complicated.
that one.
All right, so this is, I think, the fourth or fifth film. It's called Pather Panchali. Who wants to describe this one?
Oh, may I do it, boss?
Yeah, it's his movie. Let Sean
You
do
may.
it.
Oh, this. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I
Yeah.
forgot. Yes, I'm sorry, Sean. Your film.
Yes, well, this film was recommended by viewers, and I wanted to see it because I wanted to see a film by, Satyajit Ray, that, because I had seen the Apu trilogy, and I decided I wanted to see another film by him. Somebody suggested this film. And of course, since I had forgotten that this film was indeed the first one of the Apu trilogy.
Yeah.
So it's great that we had the chance to do this.
Well, I mean, when did
Now,
you
this
watch?
was
Sean? When did you watch the Apu trilogy? When did you?
in the theaters back in
Oh,
the,
so these are the ones you saw
80s.
early on. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, in the 80s.
in the 80s.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Including
they
this
weren't
one?
that old back then.
No, we were young.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know you'd already seen these or the trilogy.
Yeah,
So-
Yeah, me either.
No, I didn't. I had forgotten what the title of it was. So when I put this one on, someone said in the viewer comments, and Wolverine was like, this is the first Apu film. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course I know that.
Yeah. Now
I had
you know
forgotten
now.
completely. So this film was it put out 1955?
1955.
And it took years to make. It's by the great Indian director Satyajit Ray, and this was his first film. He was like a book illustrator. It took a number of years to make, and it's the story. It's based on a book, and it's the story of a family in rural India, an impoverished family, and their travails. It's a small family. It's a father who I think was of higher class. He reminds me a bit, but without the bitterness of the father in Last Film Show, who was a Brahmin, but he was forced to sell tea at a train station. And this guy, he's a writer and he's a priest, and he moved back to his ancestral home, which is falling apart, and his family is just above subsistence level. His wife and his daughter Durga and their little son Apu, and they also have living with them an auntie who I always assumed was actually their aunt, but now after being exposed to so many Indian films, you know that auntie is a honorific too. It's a term of affection.
Was she not related to anybody in this? Was she the
She could
mother?
have been. I think she probably was related to somebody in the village there.
I
What
read
about
it seems
it
like
as
other people were
as
helping
the
out with
husband's
her, too.
mother. I thought.
That's what I thought. I thought
Yeah,
it was
that's
the
what I
husband's
thought.
mother.
I thought she was a
It's her
grandmother.
mother-in-law. She spends the
Because they
spends
call
the
her
week
grandma.
with her
They,
mother-in-law.
once in a
Yeah.
while, the kids call her grandma. So
Yeah, but she constantly calls her. The wife calls her auntie.
I
Right.
know she does, but the kids call her grandma.
Well,
and
that's
I thought
because she's
she
not
was,
too happy with her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's.
It's that's the only confusion. Most of the cast of this film are non-professionals.
Right.
The auntie, oddly enough, was a professional. She was 80 years old and she was
Right.
an Indian stage actress. And the director sought her out and found her at a brothel, and
What was she doing at a brothel?
Probably
don't, I
sweeping
don't,
the floors or something.
no, but that's
Wait,
where he
wait.
found her.
In this film, she's her age is 80 years old. Not in the film, but she's 80. This actress was
Yes.
80 years old. Wow.
Yes, and
She
so
played
this is-
105 really well.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
She was,
I mean, her skin and everything. It was just.
she was unbelievably
It was like,
frail
it
looking.
was
Well,
like
that's
Dr.
what
Moreau
poverty will
makeup.
do to you.
So the film is this is the first of a trilogy of films about the character Apu. But this film, he's more of a spectator in the film. He's very young, and it's really about the three women, his mother, his sister, and his auntie or grandmother, and their relationship. The father is a dreamer in a sense. He's a writer and he's a priest, and he gets a job, but he's cheerful. He's constantly cheerful and wants to educate his son. He has a lot of
only his
confidence.
son. Only his son.
His son.
Right.
That may be cultural, but it's sort of
Maybe.
like he's very cheerful, and whatever evil thing happens, it's sort of like whatever the God ordains is the best thing, And he's his first job. He's a rent collector, and he doesn't get paid for 3 months. Meanwhile, the family is like barely above starvation, and apparently there's a nearby orchard that is owned by someone else. Apparently that was his, and he didn't put it. It could have been his, but he didn't put in a hard enough claim.
It was in the family.
No,
It
he
was in
had
the
no.
film.
According
No,
what
he
I
had to
saw
pay off.
was
He had to pay off a debt.
he had to pay off a debt,
Oh,
and
okay.
he
I
gave
thought-
up the orchard. Of
Yeah.
course, he's
Yeah.
all free and
Yeah.
easy because his wife's handling everything.
Yeah, so he's constantly he doesn't get his wife's bothering, saying you got to ask the guy to get paid. And he's like, oh, he's a good man, he'll pay me, and he does. 3 months later,
Right.
and then later he disappears for many months, and meanwhile the wife is left on her own, trying to provide for the kids and the auntie, and it just shows you it's amazing how just a couple pieces of fruit can be the difference between nutrition or not,
Well,
So-
that she was stealing.
yeah, the daughter
The daughter was stealing.
Durga was
She was stealing for the old lady.
Well, I think for everybody, including the old lady. And
yeah. So
and she-
it's
yeah.
a very moving film. The performances are amazing. Like Durga, she has these great eyes when you first see her, and so does the mother, and so do Apu. They are truly, you really watch them. They really have, in my opinion, an amazing screen presence, and it's just, you just watch them, and this is part of India that we always talk about what we haven't seen, and this is rural, poor. I believe it's set in the 1920s.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know,
I was going to ask that. Is it?
Yeah,
Is that?
I
is
think
that the
it's set in the
setting?
1920s. There's trains, there's electricity, but they didn't, until they go down and see it, they've never seen the train. They have no electricity. It's
Well, I would say that I believe it is set in the 1910s or 1920s, but as I was watching it and thinking about that, the way that these people live, it could have been set the year that it came out in 1955, 8 years after independence, and their lives might have really been the same.
or it could have been
Right.
set in 1300.
Yeah, it could have been medieval too. That's true. That's true.
So they're living in a very tough time, and I don't know if we want to get into spoilers right away.
It came out in 1955. I mean,
Yes.
I think we're good, Sean.
But
It's a
okay.
middle class staple. I think.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what I thought of when I was watching this film. And I hadn't seen these other films. What this film is essentially, reminded me of Italian neorealism after World War II.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you look at films like Open City, or more particularly The Bicycle Thief, and that was a film I resisted seeing for decades because it was always either the first or the second film on Sight and Sound's like the 100 greatest films of all time, and it's sort of like, I don't want to see it.
it's amazing. That's how Criterion exactly described it.
What,
Italian-
just like The Bicycle Thief?
No, Italian neo. What you said, Italian.
Yeah, this is, after a while, you really get to sense you're watching
Thank you, Drew.
real people.
That's what he
No,
said.
listen, I'm going to compare it to another film, black and white, called Nanook of the North. To me, this film was a documentary.
Yeah, it felt like one.
And a beautifully shot documentary. I know it's not a documentary. I'm just saying it had a feel of you're just dropping in on this family and watching what's going on. It
feels like real life.
I didn't feel any
episodic.
acting. They weren't acting, by the way,
Yeah.
really. I mean, they were just doing their thing. And the mother in particular, took the brunt of everything. And technically, I can't believe they pulled this off in 1955.
First film by the cinematographer.
It's unbelievable because it's absolutely gorgeous. The skin and the way the black and white and the photographing of the skin and the darkness of the skin, the lightness of the plants and the fields they're running through, and that train
Amazing.
shot that's coming across the horizon through the. I mean, I just can't. I couldn't get over, and I have to say, when I first saw the auntie, I'm like, oh, we're gonna go through this whole, and then I'm just rooting for that woman, and broke, and my heart broke with everything she was going through, and then of course the daughter, and just. But there's some things going on in the film, and it goes on and on and on. It definitely lingers on scenes that, really could have used some editing, but why? It's like a documentary. Just let it go. And it's amazing. Have you guys seen The Nook of the North? Have you seen that film?
Yes, I have.
It's got that feel where they just drop in. Now, I know that was sort of a faked documentary. That wasn't quite as realistic as they made it out to be, but this had that feel where you're just dropping in on this village and these people, and I was just blown away by it.
And we should tell the audience who hasn't seen it, it's a very tragic film. The daughter dies, the auntie dies, and it's all incredibly sad. And
it ends
Well,
with
the auntie dies alone in the woods.
Auntie dies alone. And at the
dies
end, the
alone
last
in the
shot
woods
is
after getting kicked out. That was awful.
The wife crying at the end as they're leaving the village. She's now. I guess you saw the other two. This kid, is he the only one in the film? Is the mother in the other two? Or
no? Let's just say the rest of the cast, those that survived the first film, die off in the sequels.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Wow.
But that's real life. Your parents die. Your grandmother dies. Your
and
life
how old
changes.
in the third one? How old is Apu? What's
He's
the
a
age
college
range?
student. He's
Oh,
college
okay.
Wow.
age.
And is it
Wow.
the same actor?
No,
Okay.
Is it Amir Khan?
No, it's not
Okay.
Amir Khan.
Just want to make sure.
He's going to be in the sequel, Apu Grandpa Apu. But no, this is it just is this sense of doom, and the mother sees it coming. The mother, she's got pride. I get the sense there's some relationship between the rich woman who bought the orchard and her.
Well, they bought the orchard from them.
Yeah, but I get, and she's like lords
I
over
thought
them.
that was they were sisters.
I got the sense they were like sisters, were they?
Yeah.
All I know is whoever bought, if she's owner of the orchard, she bought it off the husband.
Yeah.
Now that the mother, she took the brunt of everything in this film, right from the
They
beginning.
were cousins when she was getting married, Sean. Don't you remember? They were invited to the wedding, and she goes there, and the cousins are together, and she shows her necklace, her wedding necklace that she's making.
That's in this film?
She has this.
Now, remember, well, the necklace is very important
Yeah,
because the
he
girl
finds
is
it at the
accused
end.
of stealing the necklace from the rich girl. The rich girl's making the necklace.
Which she did.
She did steal.
And
Turns
then
out
at
she
the
did,
end,
yeah.
Apu finds the necklace and throws it away to keep
That
it.
was the most heartbreaking scene
Yeah.
Right.
that I couldn't believe that. That kid.
But what did he do to protect her? He
Of course,
got rid
because
of it to protect her.
he loved her, she loved him. Their relationship was just beautiful. And that last scene where he goes and finds that and throws it away, that's a killer.
See, that's materialism right there. Those shiny things that we're all in search of. They really this movie depicts really it's worthless. It's like throw it away. Like they had so much food. You have to be generous and share the food, the orchard, because the most important thing that they had was each other. And the sharing of the pear, the fig, or whatever that was. That was for their sustenance to live. And why does the one sister have to be so hoarding? and keep everything to her little family when her little niece over here, Durga, is starving.
Well, she does have some nuance in the
isn't
end.
there a line right at the end when they're packing up, where their neighbor that owns that orchard essentially acknowledges that they're being on different levels is corrosive and it makes you petty and angry and all that kind of stuff.
Also,
I wasn't
staying in one
expecting
place.
that kind of right. I wasn't expecting that kind of insight from that character who seemed pretty shallow and simple and perfectly happy to be a bully and lord over her. And, one of those like speaking poorly about Durga, within earshot to make sure Sarvajaya hears, I'm insulting your family, I'm insulting your daughter, that kind of stuff. And I mean, we could see it, but it made me sad for her that she could see it and then didn't do anything about it.
Well, that was a class thing, wasn't it? I mean, even in that village.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thing, right?
Absolutely.
But also that woman,
so I treat you this way.
When she saw how poor they were and how little food they had, she's like, why didn't you tell me?
I would have shared.
Yeah, I would have shared.
That's an afterthought. That's after the case. You never think it's as bad.
Everything changed when the daughter
Yeah.
got sick. Everything changed, and then when they were moving, she really softened at that point after being pretty hostile the entire movie.
Also,
and then maybe her true feelings came out. I don't know.
That's a fair read, I think.
Also, it's like, the elders coming when the husband's home.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it was a
Why are you
heartbreaking
leaving?
scene. He comes home with money and gifts, and here's something for Durga, and then he discovers she's dead,
and the mother doesn't tell him for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, that's usually what
Where's
you would lead
Durga?
with, But
First things first. Hey, your daughter's dead.
Yeah.
As soon as you say it, it's real, and she might not have been able to face it. I mean, when you see, her, that shot of her in bed after the storm passes, and she's sitting in the bed with her daughter dead, in her arms, and she's just staring vacantly away. She doesn't believe it. She doesn't want to see it.
And then,
I mean, the whole thing that the house can't protect them, that her, dad left it to fall apart, and he only notices how falling apart it is and how it matters when he comes home, and it's literally a wreck, but it's already too late. It's already taken his daughter. So I really can't believe they pulled that storm off. It's really amazing.
The cast who were not actors. I think the thing that surprised me the most was, with very little dialogue, how much they did with their eyes and their expressions without saying a word. They conveyed their emotions, which for non-actors to do something like that and make it so real, I found that just incredible. Because that scene you're talking about when she was with the father, who's all joyous that he has all this stuff, and she hasn't told him yet that the daughter has died, but it was all on her face, what was going through her head at that time. It was just an amazing scene. That one scene, especially the way she played it. But even the boy, once you realize, and I didn't know this was a trilogy, but I thought it was going to be about Durga. But then once the kid is born, the boy is born, now everything is through the eyes of the boy. And that's why that scene at the end when he throws away that necklace, that tells you everything about it. He's going to make sure that her legacy isn't harmed by admitting to this theft. He was protecting her even in her death. So I found that you could see that in the way this director framed his shots, the POV shots, when they would look at something like close up on the boy, and you see those big, the black and white is just gorgeous and sharp. You know what I mean? It was just
stunning,
incredible,
stunning.
It was, and the more you read about it and the restoration that they had to do for this, because the negative was so damaged, it's amazing that they were able to make it look as beautiful as they did. And it was funny with this movie, as I'm watching it, it's really a slice of life, right, in a world and time that we just don't know, right? And I found it kind of interesting, but then I was like, wow, it's just so slow paced. And it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And I was like, this is going to be a long movie. And then I don't know what happened, but somewhere about halfway through it, all of a sudden, I just started to get more invested in everybody when the desperation was getting bigger. And you see her, she's lashing out because she's so desperate, and he's just going off doing his own thing. And it's funny, when the movie was over, I went, yeah, I liked it. Like, I wasn't bowled over by it. But then the next day I was thinking about things in the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like this movie a lot better when I started thinking about it than when I was actually watching it. Because it really was, we always talk about this. Sean mentioned at the beginning, this was a place I've never seen before. It's a situation I can't relate to whatsoever. And the way they got that across with, one, the way it was shot, and two, non-actors being about as real as you can possibly be, I think is what made it so interesting for me. And knowing now that there's 2 more of these with the boy, and again, then if, like Sean said, it's going to be as tragic as this one. I just hope that somewhere there's some joy in these people's lives in the other 2 movies, because it was
the end of the third one ends on a kind of hopeful note. So
okay, because that's.
I mean, do we consider
like
this end hopeful?
Do what?
No.
Well, no, I
do.
a little bit, because they were leaving their place, but you were hoping that they were going to a better place with all the tragedy that just happened. You were hoping that they were going to a better place.
Isn't that their belief system there in India with the Hindu? And this is a Hindi movie.
Yes.
So their basic theories of,
Reincarnation.
Is reincarnation. They are going to a better place. You hear, that they're in a better place. Or we hear that nowadays. People in the United States say, oh, they're in a better place. We don't know, but you know what I mean? That is their standard go-to belief in.
I know that I hoped, with all the tragedy that they went through, I was hoping that this is going to be something better for them, because it couldn't get much worse.
Yeah.
So you hope, but knowing the father and the way he seems like a good guy, but a little irresponsible with his family.
Yeah. Well, maybe
he'll change it all.
Maybe he'll fight harder and try harder.
Well, maybe his daughter dying will change him. I don't
know.
Or people don't change, and he'll be exactly the same, which is why the wife is crying in the thing as they're leaving, because she knows that she's going to take the brunt of it. That was not a happy ending to me. That is not going to a positive new place.
I think the husband's going to change. He was so devastated with his daughter.
I don't think you have any reason to think that. But I mean, here's the thing: at the end of the movie, the only thing that's positive about it is that they're leaving because their home is destroyed. And isn't the last shot of the movie a snake slithering into their home?
That's what I ask about that.
There's nothing there.
Right.
You have to leave. That's good that they were able to leave. This reminded me of another movie that we all watched together that I don't know if this movie I'm about to say consciously echoed it, or maybe everything in Indian cinema has, Satyajit Ray towering over it. I don't know, but there was some parts of it that really reminded me of Tumbad. This idea of a family home, a decaying home, an endless rain, and some of the stuff that was the same in both was inverted in a usually a negative way in Tumbad. Like both movies have an old woman who's seen as a drag on the family, and in Tumbad she's evil and turns into a tree, and then is relieved when she gets burned to death. And in this movie, she breaks our hearts by dying alone in the woods. But it all feels like, real things about real people and real homes. And of course, the whole thing in Tumbad is you have to leave. You have to never come back. And when you come back, it's trouble. And at the end of this movie, these people are going to leave. I haven't seen the other 2 movies. I don't know if they come back, but it's very clear there's nothing to come back to. So I am glad that they left. It's not like the neighbor said, "Oh, you can come live with me now," because I don't even imagine how she could even make that offer at that point.
I'm going to make a $5 bet. I believe, I don't know these other movies, but I think the family's going to fare better going to the new place.
Not according to the guy to your right.
And I'm not going to make a $5 bet.
I don't see anything good. I mean, for the wife, the mother. I think the young kid probably may have a chance if he gets away from everything. The father, I don't think is going to change. That guy didn't change. She's begging him to do repairs in the house and stay here and pay attention to what's going on here, and he wouldn't do it. He was off doing his dream.
I don't even think she was nagging
for
or
a month.
She was not nagging. She was asking him. you
She
know,
just would ask him, like, "Hey, can you get the repairs done?"
yeah,
Hey,
And
can
then
we
he
ask
would
the
say
guy
no.
for
the
money?
house is falling apart, and you expect me to make meals every night, and you know
She
when you
wasn't complaining like that. She was said, "Can you do this?" And he
I'm not saying
definitely
she was
said, "No,
she
I'm
was
going."
she was asking for help from him is what she was doing.
Right.
Yeah, but it's
And
funny, when he left, the elders were like, the daughter's dead, they're like getting ready to leave, and 5 village elders come there and they're like, why are you leaving? It's like,
Right.
you are this guy's son and this guy's grandson.
right.
So
This
why
is
didn't
your
you
house.
talk to us about it first?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And he's like, well, I can't pay back the money you've already lent me.
Right.
It's like, guys, have you been paying attention to what's been happening to my little family?
Right.
Of course, he doesn't look at it that way. It's like, there's nothing here for us anymore.
Right.
But it's like, they're still, despite this tragedy, they're shocked that he's leaving. But apparently he met his wife. They were already out in some city somewhere elsewhere. And he came back there, and there was nothing there for him ultimately.
It's so
But-
sad, and that whole thing with the daughter, what's her name?
Durga.
Durga was so
Durga.
independent and such a free spirit that that she was going to get broken just like the mother.
Yeah.
That they were going to force her to get, she was going to get married, not forced, but she would get married, and she'd end up. They were asking her to do all the sweeping. The little boy was always sitting next to the father writing. The little boy puts the prince. She actually calls him a prince when he takes her stuff out of her toy box and makes the crown for himself. So she's gonna be the same fate that the mother had. And I just found that heartbreaking. I mean, she died, which is worse, but this beautiful, independent creature was going to end up in the same space her mother was. And that to me was very, very, very sad, including, the auntie, 90 years old, walking around looking for food, and her own family won't even find food for her or.
Well, and I think a big. I don't usually watch a movie and go, "Oh, that was my favorite scene," but I do listen to the Eye of the Duck podcast, and they have spun a whole,
Yeah,
media
their whole thing is
empire
based
out of
on that, right.
finding the scene that represents the movie, which is a fun idea, I think. But when I think of Durga dying, I think of what is my favorite scene of the movie, which is full of promise and then slams you back to reality. I mean, we've talked about it, they go into that field, which is gorgeous. They hear electricity. They hear the sound of the future coming in from the larger world, and then they see a train which is from this much bigger world, and it passes through, and the way, like you said, Ralph, the way that whole thing is shot is just, it's so beautiful. And then they come back into this beautiful forest, and then there's Auntie, and she's dead. So they see the larger world. They feel this joy and this excitement. They see this beauty. Then they see the reality of death, and then Durga will never escape that.
Right.
And you're telling me Apu is a college student at the end of in the third movie, so he definitely is able to escape it. But a woman not being able to escape poverty in this kind of world is not surprising, but no less awful for being, ordained. Because is her mother's life less tragic because she didn't die? In a lot of ways, no.
That's why she's crying in that wagon as they're rolling
It's
out.
so awful.
Heartbreak. That woman, it was hard. And she wasn't the nicest human being either. She was not helping Auntie. She was,
They
cursing
felt
her.
like real people. That was
Yeah.
the power of it.
Yeah.
Nobody was held. There was
Little
no,
things,
one
little
person-
things.
It
That's
didn't-
why-
it
But then
didn't
again,
do that.
every-
It didn't do that thing where poor people are holy and special.
No,
and
no,
enjoy
no.
poverty or anything. I hate that stuff. They felt like real people suffering, and the movie didn't pretend that being poor was anything other than
Right. Like
really
all the
hard.
people in the bottom of the Titanic partying, having big Irish parties down there
Right.
in the steerage.
Well, I think the thing you got to look at is with the mother is, I think she, it's a calculating thing, but she knew everything that the auntie ate was food her children couldn't have. I think that, she was just that sorely pressed. And I can think of stories I heard about my own family, and my grandfather had an elderly aunt who helped raise them. And when he moved to Baltimore, he had 6 kids and a little house, and he wasn't completely established, and she needed a place to stay. And, my grandmother was like, we can't have her stay here. And she ended up having to go into a Catholic charity home. And my grandmother told me 80 years later, that was the hardest decision she ever had to make. But it's like they just couldn't have her there. And she felt bad about it 80 years later, so.
That's why
Well, not 60 years later.
I think this movie is so important because it teaches you have to be generous with your family. I mean, you just can't let them go. You can't let them starve. You have to, if there's one pair and you got 6 people in the house, everybody gets 1/6 of that, you just have to.
Well,
You
the
have to
father
Well, I
share.
mean, some of them might deserve more. You have to, look at their behavior and see, who's a nice family.
The dad
They'll
was
love one
off.
kid more,
The
but
dad
they
was
don't
off
get
for
more
months
food.
at a time. He was fine. He was
Yeah,
fine.
he doesn't get any pairs.
No.
Yeah, he was
fine.
not.
Well, he could be on the street.
He
you know,
seemed to
would-
be healthy enough, you know what I mean?
See, he was not a realist. He didn't see his family suffering because he was away heroically on a quest to make money. But he
Yep.
didn't make money, and when he didn't make money, oh, I didn't make money. Well,
Right.
the reality is, dude, if you're not making money, your family's going to starve. You don't see your family
Well,
starving.
and he left them back with the mother to take care of them, and she's struggling
Right.
every single day of her life was a struggle. So
Yeah,
it's
you could
heartbreaking.
see the weakness. You could see
Little
her
things,
body.
little things. This is
Yeah.
why it's like a doc. There's one scene at the beginning that it's such a silly little thing, but it was just the auntie's packing to move out one of the many times she did that. And she takes this giant sack and throws it outside the door, and it lands right on a kitten that happened to
didn't
be
like
walking around. I knew you wouldn't, but that's like, this isn't planned stuff. This was just happening. That's why it
Right.
felt like it's a documentary. They're just,
What
we're
about that
watching.
snake?
And the snake at the end, I'm like, what is going to happen? Why are we seeing that? But I think it's just
What
to
kind
show the
of snake
decay.
was that, fellas?
Big giant one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have one in my garage, but I don't
No,
think that means I have to move out.
that's true.
Well, anyway, so I was blown away. And like John was saying, at first, I'm like, oh, how am I going to get through this? And by the end, heartbroken that the auntie dies, heartbroken
Yeah.
the daughter dies, heartbroken watching that mother go through that wagon at the end. And maybe the kid was going to get out, maybe. And according to Sean, he did, but there's other nasty stuff that goes on. But I just couldn't get over the technical aspects of the film. The cinematography is just, I can see why Chris Nolan and Kurosawa says this is one of his best films. They list all the directors that have, I've never heard about this film or seen this film until this. I didn't see this in college or anything. I saw in the Nook of the North, all the ones I had seen, never seen this one. And it played it in New York at NOMA, I think. They said it premiered in 55 in New York.
It was at the Cannes Film Festival.
Right. So just gorgeous. And like you said, the
Debut
fact that
film, too.
it burned in a fire and they were able to restore it is a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the few Indian movies I had ever seen before we started, discovering them in this show. And it was like, this was one of those films you watch in film school. You watch this and you watch Some Like It Hot and you watch, City Lights. And, that doesn't, I don't mean that that's good or bad. It's just, that's one of those
Right.
like really seminal films. And so this is one of those, classic global cinema landmarks, up there with, a Fellini or you were saying before, or Bresson or things like that. And I had no memory of it. I had no memory of how beautiful it was. And it was really nice to see it again. And I mean, part of me is just, I'm just getting older. I don't remember anything anyway. You can put on an episode of Bob's Burgers I've seen 3 times. I'm so excited how funny it is. I don't remember it.
Right.
But it was really special to see it. And so I'm glad that you brought it, Sean.
Yeah, well, the thing is about, like, you look at like Citizen Kane and Orson Welles. I mean, that was a home run first film, but he was working in the studio system with the top technicians. Everybody else on that film was great, And here's a guy. I'm sure there were other people who have made films, but he hadn't. The cinematographer hadn't. I mean, these guys were learning on the job.
Yeah, this is the
And it's an
tradition of
amazing
Clerks and Eraserhead, like homemade. Make a movie with people in your life movie, and you can make something really special. And this is
Except
really
And it took
special.
years.
And if it did, and he had to get money from the government, I think helped him. And just the shots, I just can't get over shots inside dark places that are readable and everybody's well defined and just I can't rave enough about this. This is
Well, that scene
how
when
many
it was raining, when she got pneumonia in that rain there, that rain scene was
Oh my God.
amazing. Just
like I said, they went a little. There's a lot of like navel gazing stuff where they would shoot the the lake and these mosquitoes are jumping on or whatever. They did kind of, listen, if I'm out there shooting and I'm doing that, I'm going to shoot everything I can. So kudos to them. It's just gorgeous.
Well, the other thing I
and
thought about
heartbreak
with this movie is that, it's set in the first couple decades of the 20th century. So this is under the British Raj. This is under colonial rule. Unlike the other movies that we've seen that are set in the same era, like RRR and some other stuff, we never see the British. They have nothing to do that we know of with the lives of these people. Yeah. And that was interesting because we see in so many ways, if you're like, oh, think of the Indians and the English in this colonial era, you're going to think of Lagan, you're going to think of RRR, and those people feel, as real, but these people, they were in the middle of, Bengal, and they didn't matter in the
they didn't have
picture,
anything
but
worth
the movie
making.
made their lives matter to us, which I think is really kind of an extraordinary thing. Which is why the documentary thing you said, Ralph, makes a lot of sense.
I mean, that's what it looked like to me. I mean, it's just which kudos. So how do you want to rate this? Ledoux or just
your show?
I say 5 Ledoux. I'm going 5 Ledoux on this one.
Out of 5?
5 out of 5.
Yeah, I go 5.
5 out of 5.
I'll go.
Drew?
I'm going to say 4 because I think most people, we always recommend films to people. It's not an easy film to get through
but you're rating it for the film, not for somebody watching the film.
Yeah, I give it a 4.
Okay.
4.
Yeah, I'd go with it's a 4 or a 5 depending on what mood I'm in when I'm watching it. It's not a 6 like RRR, but it's a very fine film.
6, that's one above the.
Well, it's funny. I know what mood I'll be in after I watch it next time.
Yeah.
Same mood I was when it ended this time.
I have to say, I had to go back and rewatch stuff because like I said, that woman, Auntie, was driving me crazy at the beginning, but by the end, I was heartbroken.
The movie rewards.
Yeah, it really worked. It got in there. Yeah. It got in there. And just gorgeous. All right, so now we're going to spin a wheel, right? Just to be more confusing.
Viewer pick.
Everyone's favorite.
Viewer pick. So let's go to that and see what we got. So there we go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 8, 7 or 8 left. So that's weeks of our lives.
8.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Any guesses, John?
I'm hoping it'll be Jersey because I've already seen it.
Close.
Oh, so close. Okay, so Joji.
I hope the sister and grandmother don't die in this one.
Well, it stars Fafa, so I'm in. And you can watch it on Amazon Prime.
What's the description of it? Do you have a quick description?
Oh, Fahad Fasil.
It says that, Fafa. It says that it's a young man who's a son of a rich family who dreams of being wealthy, and driven by greed and blind ambition, he decides to execute his plans following an unexpected event in the family. And hopefully the unexpected event isn't that his sister died because of a monsoon flu or something. So
and he's the guy that played the drunk in Super Deluxe, the actor who's pretending
that
to be
guy.
drunk.
He was also in the he played the evil guy in that family.
Played the psycho.
The
psycho guy.
Oh, I love that guy.
Yeah, he's great.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I could definitely see him killing his family for money.
All right, let's be good.
Who knows? We'll see.
Killing your family for money is
He was
always
great in Vikram,
awesome.
too. Action hero.
But
All
I
right.
got to say one thing, Drew. I was a little afraid when you said this movie was like another movie we watched. I thought for sure you were going to say Runway 34.
You know,
it does have electricity and transportation.
You bring that up as your go-to insult all the time with that Runway 34. I guess you just didn't like
I'm
doing
the
it.
guy that liked it.
Oh, okay. Because you keep bringing it up. That's weird. It's good. All right. So, great. So Joji next week. Everybody set for that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
I mean, not yet. I haven't watched it yet, but
We're going to watch it. Does it say how long it is?
I think it's a little under 2 hours.
Oh,
wow.
Awesome.
I like that.
Wow.
Yeah, hour 53.
That's like 2 bus rides and a metro for me. So that's awesome.
Oh, God. That's...
At least you know.
Ralph, you did watch this on a TV, right? You watched this.
I did.
Okay.
I mean, I'm glad I did because I just, again, I'm going to rave. I can't get over the cinematography.
It was beautiful.
And I think that's another reason, John, people should what?
I think they should subscribe, hit the notification button, and for the love of God, smash the like button. It's a small thing that makes a big difference to the channel. So,
and if you watch past 10 minutes, that helps too. I found out. So
Yes.
please watch at least 10 minutes.
Our average time
Well,
is
telling them to
we're
watch at
above
least
average
10
time,
minutes,
just so you know.
40
We're
minutes
above-
in is the best way to do that.
I think so too. Exactly.
We're above average time. So
Good.
That's a good thing.
All right. So everybody have a great week.
Yep.
See you next week for
See ya.
Joji, and stay
See
safe.
you guys.
Joji.